Chapter 8? Chapter 8. The Flood. At breakfast on Monday morning, Mom said, "It looks like it's going to pucker up and rain." "It isn't looking like it." "It is," said Dad. "It just started. That's all the river needs." "If that river doesn't get off our fields, how are we going to plow?" asked Cliff. "I think I'm going to sit around and mend harness when I should be turning earth." Toby looked out of the dining room windows at the rain. It was coming down heavier by the minute. Dad said, "The highway's melted most of the way now, and the river's over the road about half a foot near the covered bridge. Hal Norton phoned down this morning, and he says they're getting worried, even if he is part way up his hill." "Jim Clark," Mom's voice jumped. "Is that why you looked so funny when Hal called?" "I don't think the children ought to go to school. What if they can't get home?" "We've got to go to school," Betsy cried. "Mom, honest, we'd spoil our attendance record, and besides, I'm supposed to turn in another mouse story today. What's a little rain?" "That's the trouble, Bets," Dad said, his handsome face unhappy and severe. "It isn't a little rain. If I know anything about the sky, I wouldn't put it past it to keep on pouring." "I wouldn't put anything past it, Ribs. Get off my foot." "Looks to me," said Cliff mournfully, "as though I'll have to haunt this place and make chores for myself. Nothing I hate worse than doing something I've done already. I wonder where those crows went." "Up in a tree to make a nest," piped Johnny. "And if you get up in a tree, Cliff, how are we going to get you down?" "Leave me perched," said Cliff. "I might as well be there as anywhere." "My goodness, what a cheerful conversation," said Mom. "Cliff, have another buckwheat pancake." "Don't mind if I do. Thanks, Mary." "Toby," Dad kept his voice even, "I don't trust the river, period. But I don't believe the rain will get too bad, at least before night. Anyhow, if you should get stalled in the village, take Bets up to Norton's and hire if you have to, and stay there. And Bets, you mind Toby." "Yes, Dad." Mom said, Mom still looked troubled. "Jim, I'm still not sure they should go." "Oh, Mom, we'll be all right. Don't you worry," Toby laughed at her. Mom's eyes turned the color of rain. She didn't laugh. "Hey, Bets." "Huh?" Toby saw that Betsy was beginning to agree with Mom. "For Pete's sake," he said, "why should Mom worry? We can both swim, and so can Windyfoot." Bets perked up. "Of course he can, Mom. If we have to, we can hang on to Windy, and he knows the way home." "Maybe I'm crazy," said Mom, her eyes sparkling green again, "but I would like to put my foot down." "If you do," said Johnny hopefully, looking in the opposite direction, "you're going to step right smack on Poke." "Oh no," Mom peered under the tablecloth. "Poke shoe. Go on, cat. Much as I love you, there is a limit." "Yes, I love you, but vanish, will you?" Betsy got the giggles. "Like the Cheshire cat. Poke can't move that fast." "Lazy," said Dad. Mom giggled too. Wouldn't she look silly with a grin hanging in the atmosphere? "Poke, go sit on your grandmother." Johnny held on to his stomach. "Oh, how would she know her grandmother if she saw her to sit on?" "Ho, ho." "Ho, ho yourself," said Toby. "Bets, we better start." Mom said, "If anything happens, phone quick." "Yes, Mom, please stop worrying. We'll be all right." "Oh, hurry up and come home," said Mom. "I won't rest until you do." "I'm tired of not being old enough to go to school," said Johnny plaintively. Dad pushed back his hair. "Toby, phone us as soon as school's out. I'll help you with the buggy. If this keeps up, you better tell your teachers you won't be there tomorrow." I don't like the idea of you having to swim home, either of you. Cliff croaked, me neither, and lit out for the woodshed. Okay, Dad, anybody know where I put my trench coat? Probably where you hung it up, said Betsy. Yeah, but where did I hang it? Don't tell me you've lost it again, said Mom. Whoever gave you that memory ought to be ashamed for skimping. Toby whooped. Of course you didn't have anything to do with it. Of course not, said Mom vaguely, looking around. I think I saw it last hanging in the attic doorway. He didn't leave his memory hanging there, shrieked Johnny. Besides, I used this trench coat for a wigwam the other day when I was playing Indians. Well, where'd you put it afterwards? Johnny frowned as if he were thinking. At the same time, Toby gave an impish glance. Toby wanted to spank his small brother just for luck. Don't tell me you've forgotten. Naturally not. It's still there. Where? In the woodshed. Thank you, said Toby, starting to run. Come on, Bets. Dad pulled the vermilion-wheeled black buggy out of the wagon shed, helped him harness Windy, and warned him again, Toby, be careful. Gosh sakes, Dad, don't you start having fidgets too. Start? I've had them for the last week. Maybe your mother's right. Take care of Betsy. Dad put his hand on his shoulder, and Toby knew that Dad trusted him, no matter what. Yes, sir. As Windy approached the old covered bridge, he slowed down. Toby looked ahead through the thick rain. Crooked River was over the road, and no fooling here. Where farms lay near the river, the water had flooded the low meadows, and while the brick or white clapboard houses and the red or weather-silvered barns were built up a little way up the hillsides. Toby flapped the reins. Go on, Windy. But Windyfoot stopped dead still at the edge of the water. He tossed his mane. He didn't like the speed of the current, and he didn't like the rain. Windy, Betsy hugged her books under her yellow raincoat. We've got to get to school. The pony stamped his right forefoot in the water. Toby began to feel a trifle apprehensive too, but he could still see the roadway leading up to the bridge. He yelled impatiently, Giddy up, Windy. Windy refused to hurry. He moved slowly and cautiously, testing the road. When he had climbed the slope to the bridge, he began to trot. His hooves tattooed on the worn planks, and the echo trotted back from the slanted, wooden-pegged rafters. Toby glanced at Betsy's troubled face. Hey, Bets, relax. We'll be there in no time. Yep, said Betsy. They turned Windyfoot over to Mr. Bronson, the livery stableman. Mr. Bronson gave his Canadian cap a twitch so that the visor was sticking out at the back of his head. Kinda rainy, ain't it? Yes, sir, said Toby. How far do you think the river's going to come up, Mr. Bronson? Oh, can't say, Mr. Bronson limped to unharness Windy. She's coming up till she gets a mind to stop. But she's done it before. I ain't scared. And don't you trouble your minds about Windy or my horse, Maranthe. Mr. Bronson tossed his head. If the river gets rambunctious, I'll telephone your father, and both of you stay here. Thanks, Mr. Bronson, Toby said, but Dad told us to go up to Norton's if we have to. Hal Norton is nice and high, said Mr. Bronson. What's he worrying about? You two will get soaked making it to the schoolhouse. This weather feels like the Atlantic Ocean turned upside down. Betsy yelled gleefully, Oh, Mr. Bronson, wait till I tell Miss Tony about the Atlantic Ocean falling down. You look at here, Betsy Clark, don't you go telling tales on me to your teacher. I will so, laughed Bets and bolted out the livery stable door. Well, I don't care if she does, chuckled Mr. Bronson. There you are, Windy. Eat your oats. There goes the school bell, Toby. You're going to be late. I was just thinking, said Toby. See you, Mr. Bronson. He clutched his books inside his trench coat and ran up the street toward school. By noontime, the sky was acting like the seven seas turning handsprings. Some of the children on the distant farms hadn't been able to get to school, and Miss Hunter looked serious. When the bell rang, she said, "Children, please stay in your seats for 5 minutes. I want to go up and ask Mr. Atkins if we can't dismiss the school for the afternoon. The river's rising." Tobias Clark, Richard Norton, Molly Thatcher, Deborah Davidson, all 4 of them stood up. "Yes, Miss Hunter? You will be monitors of this class while I'm gone. I trust you won't starve to death in 5 minutes, said Miss Hunter, smiling at them. "Molly Snatcher, will you give the pitch for singing?" "All right, Molly." Molly, who wanted to grow up and be a teacher, cried happily, "Yes, Miss Hunter." She gave the pitch. They began, "America the Beautiful." "Keep singing." Miss Hunter sailed out of the room, warbling, her white head in the air. The class hollered happily after her. They sang, "Mary had a William goat, William goat, William goat. Mary had a William goat, his stomach lined with zinc." "Hey, Dick," called Molly, "you're off key. Do, re, mi. Fa, sol, la, ti, do," laughed Dick. One day, he ate an oyster can. The class picked it up again. One day he ate an oyster can, oyster can, oyster can. One day he ate an oyster can and a clothesline full of shirts. I haven't heard that one before. "And got indigestion," sang Deborah in her sweet soprano. The kids howled. "Oh, the shirts can do no harm inside, harm inside, harm inside. Shirts can do no harm inside, but the oyster can." They sang Yankee Doodle and were bawling "Boola, boola" when Miss Hunter returned. She wasn't smiling. She walked to her desk at the front of the room. Her blue eyes were steady. "Thank you, children. You'd all better eat your lunches here in the classroom. The playrooms are flooded." "Yipe," said Dick. Miss Hunter looked at him. "The school bus isn't able to get past Allen's Corners. I know which of you live the greatest distances away. The principal's office phone is still open. You'll take turns calling your families. Those who live way out go first." Toby raised his hand. "Miss Hunter?" "Yes, Tobias." Look at Miss Hunter. Wendy's down at the livery stable, and he can carry a lot of people, and he can swim, too. Betsy can go up to Norton's. I promised Dad I'll have to phone him and get Wendy, and then I can carry as many kids up the valley as possible." "That will be fine, Tobias. How many of you want to hang on and ride with Wendyfoot?" 5 hands shot up. "Gosh," Toby said, "I'll get Wendy and we'll be waiting out front. Dick, will you please go and get Betsy from the 4th grade and take her to your house? I'll be up with Wendy later." "Sure, Toby. Goodbye, Miss Hunter." Dick waved, scrambled out of his seat so fast that he kicked Toby in the shins and said, "Ouch!" "Ouch myself," said Toby. "And don't listen to Bets if she starts to argue." "Won't, Dick." "Won't," said Dick. "Miss Hunter, I can phone Dad from the livery stable. I'll be right back." "Very good, Tobias. Now, children, line up toward the door. Those who live farthest start first. Upstairs toward the principal's office. Walk slowly, no pushing." At the livery stable, Mr. Bronson harnessed Wendy as fast as he could while Toby phoned home. Cliff answered, "Yep, your father's down moving the young pigs from back of the barn. I'm just here for a minute to get a bite to eat." "Hush, Mary. Sure, it's Toby. Sure, they're all right. What do you say, Toby?" "Uh-huh, I'll tell him. But after you finish delivering people, you grab Betsy and race down this turnpike, you hear?" "I don't know where he's going to put the pigs." "In the wood box, probably." "Yep, it's raining." "Yes, Mary, they're coming right home, soon as possible. Talk louder, Toby. This telephone line is ruining my ears." "Yes, I'll tell your mother. Yes, I'll tell your father. Johnny, get off my overalls. Go paddle your own canoe." "Yep." "Toby, you head for home before I get mad and go up and get you. Goodbye." Cliff hung up with a bang. Toby wondered whether it was Johnny or Ribs or Poke or Patricia and Patrick, the young pigs, or just Mom having the fidgets. He didn't have the time to stop and stew. "Thank you, Mr. Bronson," he said. "Welcome." Mr. Bronson turned his Canadian cap around so that the visor stuck out straight ahead, but tilted. "You better hurry up, Toby. You ain't got all day." Toby jumped into the buggy, looked back to see Mr. Bronson closing the stable door on himself and Maranthe. Now, what did he want to do that for? Maranthe still could swim, and even if she was old, so could Mr. Bronson. Toby wanted to bawl all of a sudden, but he couldn't. "Wendy!" he yelled. "School, Wendy!" 5 kids bolted through the rain. 3 piled into the buggy and 2 hung onto the sides. Wendy struggled and pulled and plotted and swished up the valley toward Allen's Corners. The boys and girls dropped off at their side roads, shouted "Thanks," and streaked for home. The bus at Allen's Corners was sitting sideways in the ditch, and the bus driver was calling the crooked river all the names that he could think of. "Mr. Brown," Toby asked hurriedly, "want a ride back to the village?" He turned Wendy around carefully in the road. "Please get in. I've got to step on it." Mr. Brown gave the dilapidated bus a kick, told the sky what he thought of it, and thumped into the buggy, teetering it far over on the right side. Toby thought, gosh, he was heavier than all the kids put together. "Wendy," he shook the rain out of his eyes. "Easy does it, boy." Wendy thought so too. He jogged through the never-ending storm toward the village, taking his time, and slowed to a walk when he knew that it was necessary. Toby gave him his head and paid no attention to Mr. Brown's sputtering. He let Mr. Brown off at the drugstore. The village was getting fuller of water every minute. "Toby!" Dick Norton and Miss Hunter were holding on to Betsy's hands at the porch of Mr. Mike's general store. Dick scooped Betsy up in his arms and waded out to the buggy. "Hi, Bets." "Hey," Dick said. "I didn't take her up the hill because I figured about when you'd be back. Wendy can't do everything." "Oh, yes he can," sodden as she was. Bet stiffened in the buggy seat. "He can so, Dick Norton." Dick grinned at Toby. "She's persnickety as one of our kittens, or my little sister. My father's coming down with a truck to see if he can round up any boats." He swallowed, glanced toward Miss Hunter on the steps of the general store. "He thinks the river's going to get higher. The telephone switchboard is having an awful time keeping going. Everybody's hollering, 'See you when school starts.'" "See you," said Toby. "Thanks, Dick." Dick swashed back to Miss Hunter. "All right, Wendy home." "All right, Wendy home." "What'd you do, Bets? Argue his ear off?" "Nope." Bets put her books carefully behind her on the seat. I just said I was not going up the Norton Hill. I just said I was going to wait for you and Wendy," she shivered. "What did Dad say?" He didn't answer. Cliff did. Dad was moving Patricia and Patrick. Cliff said, "Get home fast." "Guess we'd better. Hang on tight. I'm going to make Wendy race." "Wendy! Dust, boy." The pony ran this time, not giving a hoot for the rain or the rising river. Betsy clung to the seat, her face streaked with rain, her eyes wide. When they reached the temporary shelter of the covered bridge, Toby slowed Wendy to a walk. The pony paced to the homeward edge of the bridge, shook his mane, and whinnied sharply. Where the river had spread a little over the road this morning, the water now rushed black ahead of them. Toby looked at Bets. He spoke quickly. "Bets, I'm going to need both hands now." He tied knots in the belt of his trench coat, fastening it to the 2 loops, buttoned the front tightly, buckled the belt securely. "Grab the back of my belt and don't let go, no matter what happens, all right?" "That's a good girl." He gave her a reassuring pat and braced himself. "Wendy! Dust, Wendy!" The pony flung himself against the dark water, wallowed. Then his hoofs didn't touch the roadbed, and he began to swim. The angry water covered their knees. The pony kept his head above the eddying current. "Hang on, Bets. I am." Wendy reached solid ground in the rising curve by the butternut trees. He panted and whooshed. Toby let him stand a minute in the rain to get his breath. Then he raced home. Then he raced him toward the farmhouse ahead, its lighted windows gleaming through the dirty gray light of the afternoon. "Whew," said Toby. Dad and Mom and Cliff and Johnny dashed from the side kitchen door. "Toby, Bets, Wendy," shrieked Johnny. "Thank God," said Dad, trying to pry Betsy's fingers loose from Toby's belt. "It's all right now, Bets. Let's go." Toby couldn't tell whether Mom was crying or whether it was the rain. "Everybody's getting wet," he said, and sneezed. Dad lifted Betsy out of the buggy. Cliff glared at Toby. "About time you got home." His voice was furious and rain was dripping off the end of his nose. "Give me that pony. He won't need another bath for a year. How wet can you all get and not catch your death of April or something?" "Go on in the house. I'll rub Wendy down, Toby." "Thanks, Cliff." The kitchen was fine and warm. "Anybody may track up this floor who wants to," said Mom. "Betsy, come here while I take those wet clothes off." She sat down in the Boston rocker and opened her arms. Dad asked, "Toby, how is it up in the valley?" "Tough, Dad. Mr. Norton is trying to round up some boats. The school basement is flooded, and it's up to..." Wendy flung himself into the dark waters. The school basement is flooded and it's up to the steps of the general store. Wendy had to swim to this side of the bridge. "Where do you bet the young pigs are?" asked Johnny, tugging at Toby's hand. "Guess." "Oh, around somewhere. In my room," announced Johnny triumphantly. "They got nice and clean in the rain, and Dad said I could keep them there in a big box. And Mom said, 'What next?' And they're honking as pretty as anything." "Pigs don't honk," said Toby. "They grunt." "Well, honk, grunt, who cares? I'm taking very good care of them. I gave them some of my caramels for dinner this noon." "Oh my gosh, you're as bad as Bets with Chris. I hope there aren't any green gumdrops around this house." Mom looked up at Dad. "Jim, try to phone the village again while I get these young ones scrubbed before they catch cold." Dad was gazing out of the window at the south hill. "Yes," he said. "Yes, Mary?" I was planning in case his voice was low and worried. "Betsy, scoot upstairs and start your tub." "What'll we do, Jim? Sit on the rooftop?" Mom asked sharply. Then she jumped up and went over and kissed Dad. "I didn't mean to snap at you. It's just that I'm scared, I guess." "I know," Dad patted her shoulder. "And you, John, Nathaniel, please pipe up the radio so we can keep track of the latest reports." "Yes, sir." Johnny jogged toward the living room. Toby went upstairs 2 steps at a time, hearing Dad wearily trying to phone the village. Then he hung over the banister, listening. "Mike," Dad said. "Jim Clark? Anything we can do from here?" "No, we haven't got a boat. We're all right so far." "How's the dam at Quarry?" "Not so good." "Yes, if it'll only stop raining." "Hello? Hello? Mike, if it gets too bad, I'll send the family up to the sugar house." "Yeah, keep your shirt on. Get Miss Mike up Hal Norton's hill and anybody else you can find." Yes, see you at next town meeting, if not before. So long, Mike." Bets was splashing in the tub. "Bets, step on it," Toby called. "What's your rush?" The splashing became more violent. He headed for his room and undressed, put on his bathrobe. Mom came up the stairs, looked into Johnny's room. "Those pigs are out of the box," she said. "Patricia, get away from the wastebasket." "Patrick." "Oh my goodness." She closed the door and hurried for the bathroom. "Wait a minute, Betsy, till I scrub your back. Toby, hold your horses." While he waited, he did a swift pencil sketch of Windyfoot swimming Crooked River. Then Mom called, "All right, Toby, your turn." He hopped in and out of the tub, not wasting any time. He had to feed the horses and help milk. He scoured the tub, hung up his towel, and zooped for his room. Johnny skidded in. "I'm going to stay filthy for a change," he proclaimed. No, said Toby in mock astonishment. For what change? For instance, said Johnny firmly, grabbing Toby's left leg. Get off, Toby shook him gently. How do you think I'm going to get dressed? I'm in a hurry. He hauled on a clean flannel shirt and dungarees and his black sweater. Suddenly, he was terribly sleepy. He started to reach for his dry boots, yawned, and stretched out on the bed. Johnny, please wake me up in 10 minutes. Not more than 10 minutes. It was nearly dark outside his window. He closed his eyes. Naturally, mumbled Johnny, curling up beside him, the pigs are honking. All right, honking. He simply had to get a few minutes sleep. I am going to first grade this fall, said Johnny comfortably. Said Toby, that'll be nice. 10 minutes, Johnny. Honk, honk, said Johnny. Chapter 9, mañana.